Okay, hello everybody. Again, if you don't know me, I am Cindy Strenning. I'm one of the college and career counselors at E3. I've been working with your babies if they've been at E3 for the last 3 years. So I'm super excited about this one. This is one of my favorite parent meetings and parent institutes just because it's really preparing for their senior year and everything that senior year has to offer. So let's get started. We're going to go over senior year events and activities just to give you an idea of the timeline. We'll talk about their viable path, their senior course expectations and timeline. Then just some advice about senior year. It gets really stressful. I will tell you it is emotional roller coaster, ups and downs. So be prepared for that. And then we'll just get into like the ACT, SAT testing, college and financial aid overview, and then some save the dates. This is going to be a lot of information. We tried to cut as much as we could out. As a senior, we have more senior parent institutes. We usually have the orientation, one in October, another one right after that, another one in February and April. So we can walk you through that entire process because there's a lot. It's very, very complicated depending on what your scholars are wanting to do. Why is this not clicking? There we go. So let's look at some senior year events. This is really subject to change. Events may pop in, they might pop out depending on availability. And obviously with like the pandemic, hopefully that's over and there are no restrictions. But this summer, pretty soon, look forward to information about senior portraits. We go through Life Touch with those, and I have a slide right after this to go a little bit more in depth about that. So that's kind of what our scholars like to do over the summer and in the fall. But then when the fall hits, that's when things start really rolling. About September or October, we're going to have a presentation from Jostens. And Jostens is who we order all of our senior memorabilia through, cap and gown. If you wanted a class ring, class shirts, they have all kinds of stuff. So they usually come out and present to our scholars around October, and then they open up ordering. So you can order right through 1-800-JOSTENS. If you wanted to look to see what they have to offer, it is literally it's www.jostens.com, and you can look at our E3 school store and see what our students had and some of those price points. They do start like $32 for just the cap and gown, and some of the packages can go up to $600, $700, $800 depending on what you want. They have a really good ring selection. I still have my class ring from Jostens. So it is something, if you can't afford it, something memorable that you can get. We will open up cap and gown ordering in October. You can either order a cap and gown for your scholars to keep, or you can borrow one from the school. And that information will definitely be talked to you and to your scholars when that time comes. And then we hit all the applications. So if your scholars are planning on applying to UCs or CSUs, those are $70 per application per school. Fee waivers do apply in some cases, but that's just the base cost of the application fee per campus. And then you'll also be submitting your financial aid in the fall, and that is completely free to submit your FAFSA or your California DREAM Act. Then in the spring, we're looking at more money to SIR. So if your student is going to a 4-year university, they will have to submit their intent to register or enroll by May 1st. That's decision day. And that's what you see. My background is college signing day because we just had May 1st. So we had a big senior decision day celebration on Friday, and it's been kind of a good week of celebrating all of our senior decisions. That celebration is free, but the intent to register can be free or it can go up to $500 deposit. That deposit does go to the tuition, but you just have to be prepared to pay that. And it varies by university. Some universities will waive it depending on if you are eligible for a fee waiver. It just really depends. And then we have prom that's coming up, but what is it, next weekend, 2 weekends from now? We usually have it up at the Shiley at E3, but the last 2 years, we've actually, the classes have raised enough money to have it offsite. I love the Shiley. It has a great view up there, but I think the students, that since they go to school there, they don't think it's as cool. So it's at Marina Village this year, and I believe the tickets are $30 this year because they fundraise so much, but they have been about $60 per ticket. So that's another fee, another cost, plus all the dress and the hair and the makeup and the suits. Then we have Senior Fitch Day. That's a fun day. So this is to try to deter our seniors from having a senior ditch day. We provide one for them. So that's a fake ditch day, which we call Fitch Day. So this year we're going to take the ferry over to Coronado Beach. We have a whole beach day planned out with games. We're going to have volleyball nets. We'll have a food station. So it's just a fun day to celebrate our seniors. Then there's grad night. I'm sure your seniors are, or your scholars are looking forward to that. That is expensive. Because I like to talk about that because some seniors get like really let down if they can't go. Tickets this year are $240 for the park hopper plus the coach bus. We can't take a yellow bus. We have to take a coach bus. And because it's so late, it's just a lot more money. So this year, grad night's about $240. And then we have senior award ceremonies. So we get to celebrate them right before they graduate. That's obviously free. And then graduation is free besides the cap and gown if you want to purchase that. So those are just some events we like to add in the mix. Oh, one thing I forgot to put in here is their senior presentations of learning that happens right before they graduate as well. So here's a little bit more information about senior portraits. Right now, we tentatively have scheduled on site at E3 from 9 to 1 on August 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. So that's tentative. We're still waiting for confirmation. Once we get confirmation, you will get information sent out to you. But I linked their website so you can take a look. You can also schedule time at their studio, but I believe if you schedule time at their studio, you have to purchase a package. At E3, you'll get like a couple pictures for free, and that's just their basic. They wear a drape or a tux, and they can wear whatever they feel comfortable in. So we've had female scholars that identify as female that wanted to wear the tux. So it's really whatever they feel comfortable in, but they'll provide the drape and the tux. But I believe if you go to Life Touch, you can create a package where maybe there's a cap and gown that they wear, or maybe a fun outfit. So those are the difference. If we have it at E3, it's really just the drape and the tux. Now, you will hear more about this in the fall. Your scholars are also going to get this presentation in a week or two, so they will hear about this. Remember, we do have a senior agreement. This is really to keep our seniors on track. Senioritis is real. We know this. So we do have a senior agreement where they have to agree to specific things, that they will follow the E3 way, that they will keep their grades up, their attendance low. There's just a bunch of different things, and you'll get a copy in the fall. But in order to participate in the senior events like prom, Fitch Day, grad night, they must return their signed agreements in September. So once you get that, make sure you read through, you have to initial all the lines, and make sure your scholars do read every line on what they expect, what we expect them to do, because they might not be eligible to attend these events. And they're finding this out now because maybe they have some IPs on their, like with graduation required courses, or maybe they have too many absences. So the pro tip with the senior agreement is really simple. If they're doing what they need to do, they have no problems at all. They should not be worrying about it. So we always say, just keep your grades up to a C or higher, your absences and your tardies low, and you will have nothing to worry about. So we just want to keep them on track because we know it happens during senior year. So some of the expectations that we have for seniors, so here are some of the required courses that they'll be taking. So they will have to have their 4th year of English. They will be able to choose between the CSU ERWC, so that's expository reading and writing composition. That's a basic 12th grade English class, or they can choose the AP English literature. So that's a higher level AP course. So if they want to challenge themselves, definitely have them choose that. We are going to be having course requests next week. I'm crossing my fingers. We're waiting for the system to make sure everything's okay. And then I'm going to be rolling that out for them to choose their classes. So that's the choice that they're going to have for English. They will have to take US government and econ. So like semester 1, they would take US Gov, and semester 2, they would have economics. They will be required to take their senior design thinking capstone and their workforce development. Their workforce development is their internship. So they will work, Miss Woods and the team will work with them on resume building, interview skills. They'll have mock interviews, and then they can either get help finding an internship, or they can go ahead and seek one out themselves. Internships, by the time they get through all of that workforce prep, internships usually start around October. And then they'd be able to leave campus. Once they get their internship, they leave campus 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays and attend their internship. So if you have any family members that maybe like have a law office or maybe they run their own business, we've had scholars intern with family members just to give them a little bit more in-depth knowledge of what it takes to run a business. So like I said, they can find their own internship, so they can start looking for that now, or they can wait until the fall and get some help from Ms. Woods and the team. And then they will be required to take college prep on Fridays. Right now it is scheduled from 11 to 1, and I'll talk a little bit more about college prep. So those are basically what most of our seniors, as long as they're on track and they don't need any other PEs or VAPAs, that's what they'll have. But it's just an individual case by case. Like a student may have taken a bunch of AP courses and weren't able to take like a visual arts class. So we would make sure that they would have everything that they need in order to graduate in June of next year. So here is a little bit more information about college prep. This is my baby. We created this a few years ago and it has helped tremendously because senior year is stressful. Our seniors are juggling their courses on top of senioritis. They're juggling their extracurricular activities, maybe a job, things that they have to do at home, like chores and responsibilities. And then let's add in college applications, which is stressful in itself. So what we came up with is this college prep class. We have this every Friday throughout their senior year. We have them for 2 hours. And the purpose is to help scholars. So they'll be assigned a class and then the counselors come in. So we have 2 counselors this year and 2 counseling interns. So there's a lot of support for them. We're really helping them with their viable plan. We want them all to have a viable plan while they graduate. So they'll be using the college prep time to plan for their future. So we do a lot of college and program planning, presentations like this to guide them on what steps they need to take and how they need to go about that. We have workshops where we breakouts. So if they're working on a college application, they can come to this room. If they're working on their financial aid, they can go to this room. Scholarships, community college enrollment. Right now, we just finished up like reviewing all of the financial aid award letters and making a decision. And now we're kind of focusing on those scholars that are applying to 2-year colleges and making sure they're all ready. So there is a ton of help. But what we find is some seniors just don't take advantage of that time and all those resources, and then they come to us frantic. So the big tip is really taking advantage of that time. We've also had like parents come in during this time to just, if they want to help with an essay or an application, you guys are more than welcome to come in and spend time with that class. It is a lot of fun. We usually have, announcements at the beginning, what the day is going to look like, and then we go into breakouts so that the scholars can work on whatever they're working on. The requirements for this class really mirror our graduation requirements. They are required to submit at least 1 4-year college application or equivalent. I always get this question, well, my scholar's not going to go to a 4-year. We still want them to apply, because sometimes they apply and they get in and then they get really excited and then they realize I can go to UCSD for free. So it kind of helps pave their path. And also we want them to have that experience of applying to a college. So that way, once they leave us and they decide they might want to go to a 4-year, or once they finish up their 2-year to go to a 4-year, at least they know the process and what they're getting themselves into. We also have them submit at least 1 scholarship application. I really advise to apply to many more than 1, but that is the requirement. And we also require them to submit their financial aid application. This is the first year, your class, that it is a state graduation requirement. It's a state requirement for your families to submit your scholar's financial aid application. And if for some reason we're not going to submit, you definitely want to talk to your counselor on why and like what we can do to help. Then there would just be a quick waiver that you understand what the financial aid does and that you waive to not submit that. And then The other requirements are just attending class regularly and making sure that they complete their POL at the end of the year. It's not very difficult to pass this class. We offer so much support and there is so much time. And this is really about them. It's not really about us or anything like that. We just wanted to give them the opportunity, the time, and the resources to get all these applications submitted and get help as they're doing it, because it is very, very complicated, as you will see. So some tips, I usually have a current senior come in, but I couldn't get anyone today because they will all tell you the same thing. Don't procrastinate. Don't let work pile up until the end, because the end is the most fun. Like, that's the best part. You know, you're celebrating, you get to go to Fitch Day and prom and all this stuff. And you're stressed because graduation is coming quickly and you might have IPs and might not be passing your classes. So you don't know if you're going to be able to graduate. So just do your work, submit it on time, attend school on time and all of the time. And this is just a reminder, again, you cannot attend these fun senior activities with IPs, in progress grades, or low attendance. And then we also say use a planner or a calendar. As you know, I'm looking around, a lot of your scholars are very, very busy. They have a lot going on. So just putting everything in a planner or a calendar, whatever works for them, really helps drive their to-do list and what they have to do, because they're going to be adding on college applications, essays, financial aid, and all of those deadlines that come with that. And then another thing, I know I've talked about senioritis, but it is real. Our seniors right now are really struggling, but the one thing I can say is just keep powering through it. These are your grades and your responsibility at the end of the day. So you really need to make sure that you're getting up and motivating yourself, because nobody can do it for you. So you just have to make sure you're pushing yourself. And then it is an emotional roller coaster, and it's completely normal to cry, to vent, to be frustrated. But that's when I tell them, take a break, go for a walk, reset yourself, because it's up and down. And as parents, be really looking out for some signs that your scholar might be stressed, especially if they have a lot of AP or college courses on top of all that. And I always want them to reach out for help when they need it. We're here to help. Parents, you reach out for help when you need it as well. Because we don't know what we don't know. You know, we'll tell you all the information and we think that you understand, but if you don't, just let us know and we can walk you through it. And I like to tell them as well that we will treat them as an adult if they act like adults. You know, they're going out into the world in a year. We want to be able to treat them as adults and give them a little bit more independence and freedom. Because the more we get done in that class, if every senior's done with all of their stuff, we get to have a little bit more fun. We get to have like movie days or something like that, or maybe even go on a cool field trip. So those are some tips for senior year. Now I'm going to talk about what the goal is. The goal is really to have a viable path upon graduation. And we've kind of narrowed it down and defined it as a personalized, flexible, and an attainable plan for your future in order to be prosperous, happy, and independent. So what we want for them is to, when they leave high school, they should have a diploma in one hand and a map in the other. So the map is my action plan. And that plan can always fluctuate, but we want them to have a goal set in mind. Like, I'm going to go to a 2-year, I'm going to go to a 4-year. I don't know what I want to study, but this is what I'm going to try for. So we want them to have that plan when they leave high school. And it's important because we want them to be self-sufficient and independent. I know your babies, you're so sad that they're growing up, but I also know you probably don't want them to be living on your couch playing video games at 40 years old. So the plan really is to become self-sufficient, because self-sufficiency is really the amount of income to meet your basic needs, just shelter and food. So the San Diego workforce has partnered with us and we've been working with them, and this is one of their slides. And they've calculated to be able to live in San Diego and pay for basic necessities, like that is just shelter and food, you would have to make $17.65 per hour. And that is a full time. So they did all the math. So that would be equal to about $36,700 per year. So that is just basic necessities. That's not Netflix. That's not a cell phone. That is not Pandora or any of those other things and having fun. So we really try to tell our scholars, like, you need a path because I know you want to be independent. Because whenever I ask them, I know, do you want a car? Yeah. Do you want a house? Yes. So it just kind of takes a little bit more for you to become self-sufficient. And in order to do this, we're not just pushing college. We all know that everybody is different and every single viable path is different. We have scholars that might not want to go the school route. I know when I was getting out of high school, I'm like, I just finished 12 years, I'm exhausted. So there's all kinds of different things for our scholars. We have 2-year community colleges, with great ones in San Diego that they can go to for a 2-year degree. So as associates, they can go to a 2-year just to transfer to a 4-year, or they can go and get a certification or a trade. I know San Diego City College has a great HVAC program, and our scholars can go there. And I actually talked to an HVAC rep over there a few years ago, and he said many of their students don't even finish because they are so needed and they get paid so well that they are able to leave and start their profession right then. So 2-year community colleges are great, and you'll find out why in just a bit. There are 4-year universities. There's always the military. And then there's apprenticeships. So I have a few scholars that really want to be an electrician, and you can get into an apprenticeship. I actually had an electrical technician institute come out and talk to our scholars. And I've never seen so many scholars, engaged in what he was saying, because they're able to get that training through school. So they're getting paid through this 3-year program, and then they get hired on right after, and they start making $40 to $50 to $60 an hour. So apprenticeships are really needed, especially in the state of California. There's also San Diego Continuing Ed, which is a great program for our scholars, not really looking to get to a bachelor's degree. They really want to get out to the workforce to start making money. So the San Diego Continuing Ed has a ton of certification programs that take like 36 weeks, 40 weeks, and then they can get this certification and start working right away. So I linked all of these here, so you feel free to take a look at these websites. There's an HVAC certification, plumbing, welding. There's an auto body mechanic, auto body painting. There's a CNA. So a lot of the scholars that want to get into healthcare, it's really recommended, especially nursing, if they wanted to go to a nursing program, that you get your CNA first and then go to a nursing program. So San Diego Continuing Ed has a complete, and all of these programs are free of cost. So you can go and get your CNA certification, start working, and then maybe move on to your associate's degree. So there's all kinds of different paths and ways to get to where you want to be. And then obviously there's industry certification programs. Those are becoming super popular. Google IT certifications, Coursera. I know Apple has some. So we want our scholars to know that there are all kinds of options and all kinds of paths, but it's really up to them to negotiate where they want to go and where they see themselves. Okay, that's enough about that. So let's go about the senior year timeline and kind of what to expect. So now what I want to tell the scholars, the best thing to do is to research your options. Really think about what you want to do. Visit colleges. If you can't visit the colleges in person, go on their virtual tours. Since COVID, all of these colleges have come up with a great virtual tour navigation system. They have orientation nights, all that kind of stuff. They can start on essays as early as now. A lot of the essays can be used for scholarships in various colleges. So that's a good thing for them to start on over the summer, and then join a summer program, get involved, do something over the summer. There was just an email that went out about a UC program, a full UCSD program. Ms. Rojas just sent it out. That's a great program. The SWAG program that I've emailed out from CalSoap, that's another great program for them to get involved in. So I really recommend joining a program or even taking a summer college course. I forgot to put that on there, but our scholars can register at any of the local community colleges as a high school student, and they can take college courses. There'll be information coming out about that, and we're going to have an application soon, but they can get started on that on their own. In July, August, I really want them to just think about their viable paths and how they will get there. As parents, have those conversations. I know they're going to be like, well, I don't know. But the more you talk about it, the more they'll get used to being like, okay, well, what am I going to do? Um, I would always joke with my mom that after I graduated high school, I just knew like I was going to go to college. And as an adult in this industry, I asked her like, well, I just knew. And she's like, well, that's because I always asked you, where are you going to go to college and what are you going to do? So I guess that just went into my brain, and that was what I was going to do. Not that college is what everybody should do, but for me, it was the right move. And then in August, relax, start your senior year strong. September, we're really going to be working to finalize their college list. If they need letters of recommendation, they should start requesting in September, if not earlier. Not all colleges require letters of rec, so you're going to want to look into the requirements of each college that you're interested in to see if they need a letter of recommendation. They can work on essays and really visit college campuses and start narrowing down what they're thinking. October is go time. They're going to be really antsy in like August, September and think that they need to start. Some college applications will open up a little bit early, but October is go time. The application window is open for colleges and financial aid. You're going to want to get that financial aid in as soon as possible. The deadline is not until March, but you just want to get it out of the way, just because you don't want that extra stressor while you're trying to get the college applications in. November, again, is go time. The November 30th is when your UC and CSU applications are due. So that's a good date to keep in your mind. But as counselors, we always tell them the deadline for them should be the Friday before Thanksgiving break, because that November 30th date is always right after that week-long break. And we'd rather have them submit the applications prior to that break, so that way they don't have to worry about it. If they have any questions, the counselors aren't available that week. And then when they get back, if it's close to November 30th, sometimes, and it's happened every single year, so I shouldn't say sometimes, the sites will crash. This year, the CSU site was crashing all the time. So it was really hard for our seniors that were submitting their applications at the last minute to submit them. So that's why we really want to push them to submit earlier. After November, I mean, colleges have all kinds of deadlines. I'm really focusing on UCs and CSUs because that's the majority of where our scholars do submit their applications to. But applications are still being accepted for some schools for the fall. So December and January is really kind of the chill time. Scholarships, you're going to want to create college portals, look at those portals and make sure you're completing any of those to-dos or submitting any required documents, and really keeping your grades up. Because if your scholar has applied to a four-year university, like maybe UCSD, SDSU, and they do not pass a course, even if it's advisory, their admissions decision, so if they get accepted and then SDSU sees an F or an NG on their transcript, SDSU has every right, and they have to revoke that acceptance and that scholarship if they got one. So we drill this into their heads, but I definitely wanted to let you know, keep your grades up. As long as you're passing, you won't have an issue, but it's when you don't pass, when you acceptances and scholarships might be taken away. January, they started coming in earlier, like December, but February is really when the college acceptances will start rolling in. And that's a great time to complete scholarships. The California Common Scholarship opens up in February. That's a great one. So you're going to want to try to get your scholars to submit scholarships, especially local ones, because that takes the pool down a bit. Instead of a national, you're going just local San Diego. And there's a bunch of those, and we will be sending those out as soon as we get them. And they'll also be posting them on Google Classroom. So there's a bunch of different ways that their scholars can get the information, the scholarships, or just do a quick web search. There's a million different scholarships. So they can just search for those and start applying. And then in February, community college registration usually opens. And then March and April is really looking at your award letters and making a decision, especially if you're on a 4-year plan. If you're going to a 2-year, you can still register. You don't have to tell them by May 1st, but this is just really the 4-year route, is May 1st. So March is the financial aid deadline of March 2nd. You're going to be reviewing award letters, talking with your family, and making a decision. And then you have to get ready to submit that SIR. So that's telling the colleges, yes, save my seat, I will be attending. And then after May 1st, then you would submit any housing applications if your scholar is planning on living on campus, and then just completing all of the enrollment steps like orientations, if there's any placement tests. There's just a lot of steps, and those are all listed in your scholar's student portal. And we'll be telling you a lot more information about that in the fall. Am I overwhelming you yet? I haven't even started on the college stuff. So this is just a quick information about SAT and ACT. I will say a caveat that SAT and ACT, like admissions testing, is slowly going away. In the state of California, California State Universities and University of California will not look at test scores. They don't want to, they might look at it for like placement testing, but they will not look at it for admissions decisions. Other colleges still use the testing, so it really depends on where your scholar is looking to go. So I'd really recommend having them do some research and finding out if that school requires the SAT. Some are optional, so that's really up to that scholar, but they're basically the same test. There's 4 sections, all like they're about 4 hours with breaks. There's no penalty for wrong answers. The scoring's a bit different. SAT is 400 to 1600 and ACT is 1 to 36. And then there's cost. So the SAT no longer has the essay, so it's just $55. And then the ACT is just a little bit more expensive at $63 with no writing and $88 with writing. Both of these tests can be registered via their account. So the SAT you would register via their College Board account, and the ACT is their ACT account. And I've linked both of these right up here, so you can get directly to those exams. We did provide the SAT for free for all of our juniors back in March. So they had the opportunity to take it. I believe they have their scores. This is a great time. This is why we offer it in the spring, because they can do a couple months of prep. They can use their Khan Academy account to do really intensive individualized SAT prep, and then they can register for another exam if they want to. Here are the upcoming test dates. There's one in June, and then our scholars really start hitting the ground in August, October, November, and December if they want to retake that exam. And then the SAT, there's a few more. There's another one in July. It really depends on what they want to take. Some scholars are like, well, which one do I want to take? And like, it doesn't really matter. At E3, we focus more on the SAT. But some scholars want to take both to see what they did better on. And usually you do about the same in each test. There's like different correlation. I think on the, sorry, I just lost my train of thought, but there's like a page that will say, well, if you got a 1600 or if you got a 1000 on the SAT, that equals a 20 on the ACT. And usually they're about the same. Okay, so now let's get into the college and financial aid. So what colleges are looking for is really different. All colleges are different and they all have different requirements. So it's really important that your scholars research and understand what each college requires and what their deadline is. So they have to submit that application by their deadline. I really recommend just a simple Google sheet. They can start putting the college, what are the requirements, what's the deadline, that way, and then what's the cost. So that way they can lay out what they have to prioritize. So colleges are usually looking for GPA. That's the most important thing. They want to see that scholar's transcript. Sometimes, well, most of the time in California, at least, they self-report their transcript. So they don't actually want the transcript sent to them. They want to self-report it. They'll ask for the transcript later, like either mid-year or final transcript. But some colleges request the transcript. So we'll tell them how to request their transcript so Ms. Carter can send it over to them, because they really want to see their GPAs. That's the most important thing when they're applying to colleges. Then some colleges want to see test scores, some do not. Some colleges want to see that they've participated in extracurricular activities, and not just in senior year, but throughout their 4 years or 3 years of high school, and that they've maybe taken leadership positions. That looks really good on applications, that they've had sustained extracurricular activities and that they've tried to get in leadership positions. Some colleges are looking for letters of recommendation, not all. I could tell CSUs and UCs do not require letters of recommendation and less asked. So sometimes they'll apply and they have a couple more questions. So they'll ask their scholar, hey, can you send us a letter of recommendation? But it's not very common that they request letters of recommendation. If your scholar is planning on applying through the common application, which I'm going to get to in just a second, they will require at least 1 to 2 letters of recommendation. Some colleges request a resume. That's it's not very common though. And then if they're looking at going into any of the arts, they usually want a portfolio or an audition. So I want to show you just a quick example of the differences. So California State University, those are the CSUs, like San Diego State, CSU San Marcos. There's 23 campuses across California. Their admissions requirements are basically completed the A through G, and they're looking at GPA. They have a few other factors that they consider, such as like San Diego State will consider San Diego students over other students. But that's really, they're rated on just their GPA to that program as well. So a student with a 3.5 may get into the biology program because they're being rated in that program, but they might not get into the political science program. So it's really per program as well. So they're really just looking at GPA. It's $70 per campus. That application will open up in October 1st, and the deadline is November 30th. If you need a fee waiver, it is integrated into the application. So your scholars will have to put in some financial information, like your income for 2021, and then your household size. And if they're eligible, it'll pop up at the end. And then they can apply to 4 campuses if they're eligible for a fee waiver. Anything after 4, they'll have to pay. And now the University of California. So that is, the UC system, UCLA, UC San Diego. Their admissions requirements are way more holistic. So they are looking at a bunch of different things. They're looking at they completed their A through G requirements. They have a 3.5 or a 3.0 or higher. They have personal insight questions. So if your scholar is looking to apply for UCs, I have linked it right here. They can start these essays now. They take a while. There's 8 questions. They have to choose 4 and submit an essay. It's about a 350 word essay, so it's not too long. But this is where they're really going to tell their story. The readers really want to know about them. It's like an interview. They want to know what is it about you that's not on paper? What is it about you that's not on this application? So they're really looking into those insight questions a lot. They want to know about their extracurricular activities. They want to know about their leadership. They want to know about their volunteer service. So they're a lot more holistic. So that's the kind of differences in those 2 campuses. California State University, GPA. UC's, it's holistic. They're looking at a bunch of different things. And again, the application fee is $70. There's a fee waiver in the application. They're actually opened up the submission window. So they can, I think the application might even open up before October 1st, but they can submit their application from October 1st to November 30th. They just opened that up for your class. It used to be November 1st to November 30th. So I'm really happy that they did that. And with UCSD, E3 has a partnership with UCSD. It's called the CASP Scholarship. That's the Chancellor's Associate Scholarship Program. So you must be first generation in order to qualify. Your family income must be 80,000 or less per year. That's the threshold this year. And if your scholar gets accepted and meets these 2 requirements, they get at 40,000. They get 10,000 a year for CASP. That's $40,000 plus their UCSD Blue and Gold. That will equal a full ride and live on campus for free. So I really, if they fit these criteria, really have them apply to UCSD. We have many scholars there that would have never been able to afford to live on campus and go to UCSD if it wasn't for this. This year, we had 14 scholars offered admission to UCSD, and we have 10 CASP recipients. So it's 10 scholars that can attend 4 years in college, living in the dorms for free. And then here's just some other college resources and options. A lot of our scholars really focus on UCs and CSUs because that's what they know. We live in San Diego. It's gorgeous. You know, who wants to leave California? But there's a ton, like thousands of colleges out there that will fit them as well. So there's the common application where they can submit one application, apply to over 900 colleges. A lot of these are more private. So like the Stanfords, Brown, but there are some other different colleges like Point Loma Nazarene University. They accept their application through the common application. So I definitely have them browse through there and see what colleges they're under in that. There's also the Western Undergraduate Exchange. They call that the WUI. This is really cool because they can go to college out of state. So there's 16 states in the western part of California that participate, and it's up to the college, but they could go to like one of the partner schools is Northern Arizona University. So they can go to Northern Arizona University as an out-of-state student and pay half of what they would have to pay as an out-of-state student. Like for example, let's say in-state tuition at Northern is 100,000, out-of-state tuition is 20,000. They'd be able to go to NAU because it's a participant in WUI for 15,000. So it's just a little bit of the discounted price if you're going to a WUI school. If your scholars are looking at HBCU, so that's historically Black colleges and universities, there's a common Black college application, which is fantastic. They can apply to 40 or 50 different HBCUs with just like a $35 application fee. So that's really good. There's the community college route. So there's the CCC Apply. That will get your college application into any community college in the state of California. And then websites, college websites. Every college has a website and every college has a different way for them to apply. So these are not at all of the college applications that they can go to. They can just go to the college application website and figure out how they can apply. So every single school has different admissions requirements and deadlines. So it's really up to them to do the research. And when I'm talking about community college, please remember that there is a Promise program. So it's the California Community College Promise program. So basically, if your scholars are graduating next year and they're going into community college, they can apply for the Promise program. It's a quick application and receive free tuition. I said free for 2 years. That will cover their school fees and their tuition. Books and supplies is extra, but they can also apply for a grant to cover those. So it's really cool. A lot of our students decide to go this route, so that way it's a cheaper option for them. They can go to 2 years at San Diego City College that will cover tuition and health fees. And then they might transfer to that 4-year and only have to pay for 2 years to finish up their bachelor's degree. So remember that the Community College Promise program exists, and you'll get a lot more information about that next year. So here's a little bit of breakdown, sorry for the sticker shock, about how much college costs. So for UCSD, which we were talking about, their tuition and fees just for 1 year is almost $15,000. To live on campus is another $16,000. Estimates for books, supplies, transportation is like $3,000, but we never really include those costs because we want to make sure we're paying for mandatory things. So you're looking at a total cost of attendance at UCSD is over $34,000 per year. That's living on campus. If you take the living on campus out, it's just over $25,000 per year. SDSU is a bit cheaper, $8,000, just over $8,000 for tuition and fees. But then if they want to live on campus, that's $19,000 a year. So you're looking at a total of just over $31,000. So a lot of our students that go to SDSU tend to commute because it is so expensive to live on campus. And if you're qualified for that Cal Grant will usually cover just the tuition and fees, but it will not cover anything else. Now let's look at University of San Diego. That's a private university, which tend to be a little bit more expensive. Tuition for that campus is over $52,000 a year. It's crazy. And then you're looking at on campus. So if you want to live in housing, it's almost about $15,000. So that's a total of about $68,000 per year. They do offer, these private campuses though, do offer a lot more scholarships. So that's another thing. Don't let the price tag scare you. Apply, see what they offer you. You never know what they're going to offer you if you don't apply. That's why looking at your financial aid award letters is very, very, very important. And then we have City College over here. Their tuition is, just it's very low, just over 2,000. But then if you get that promise grant, it is no cost. You get to go for free besides paying for that your supplies. So that's just a breakdown, just so you know what's ahead. I don't want to scare you next year. I want to kind of get you prepared. But to cover some of those costs, you'll definitely want to complete your financial aid application. There's 2 applications. You do not have to complete 2. It just depends on what you qualify for. There is the FAFSA. So that's the free application for federal student aid. That application, you'll be eligible for federal and state aid. So those Cal grants. If your scholar is a US citizen and has a social security number, this is the one that you're going to want to apply for, the FAFSA. If your scholar does not have a social security number, they will still be eligible for state aid for those Cal grants. They would just simply complete the California DREAM Act application. So this is for California residents without a social security number. If your scholar has a social security number, but you do not, they still apply for the FAFSA. This is only the scholar. So it's always going to be the scholar's application, and then you're going to log in and provide financial information. Both of these applications open up on October 1st. The deadline in order to be eligible for the state aid, the Cal grants, is March 2nd. And you must renew your financial aid application every year that you're in college. So right now, we're going to do it in October for the following school year. So every October, you should be looking to complete that financial aid application for the following school year. And we will help you through this process. Don't worry, we'll walk you through. It looks a lot more intimidating than it is. If you have all your documents, it will only take just a few minutes, or not just a few minutes, maybe like 20, 30 minutes. And costs add up quickly. So be prepared for sticker shock, but with grants and scholarships, and hopefully not, but sometimes you need to take out loans, college can be affordable. So here's just a little breakdown on different costs that you might see. This is more for 4-year colleges. So that enrollment deposit that we talked about, if your scholar is living on campus, you should look for another housing deposit. Some schools even have an orientation deposit. So it can add up really, really quickly. So things that you can do now is having them start a savings account, maybe get a summer job. I just heard that there is a lack of teenagers that are taking these jobs over the summer. So there's a lot more jobs available. So maybe they can get a job this summer and start putting money into a savings account for some of these things. You can right now start learning about financial aid and how it can help your family. The federal student aid, that's who runs the FAFSA, has an amazing YouTube channel that really kind of breaks everything down for you. So feel free, I get lost in there sometimes. You can learn about college costs using a net price calculator. So every single college is required to have a net price calculator. So you can go on your school, find their net price calculator, and I've linked a really cool tool for you to use. You can just add in what school it is, and they'll bring you to that school's net price calculator. So you would just add in your income and just a little bit of information. Some of them are a little bit more difficult than others, and that will break it down for you on how much they think you'll be paying out of pocket. And then keep your financial documents in a safe place because you will need them. You're going to really want to verify with a birth certificate and social security cards what their full names are. And it's amazing. I'll tell you a story. A scholar's social security card was misspelled. They misspelled her name. So she had to submit the FAFSA with the misspelled name. So really dig out those social security cards. Just take a look to make sure that their name is spelled correctly, because you're going to want to submit the FAFSA under that name that is listed on that social security card. Because what it does is once it submits, it's going to link to the Social Security Administration and make sure you are you. So you're really going to want to verify that that's all that information is correct. And then keep your 2021 taxes handy. You're going to need those if you file in order to submit your FAFSA in the fall. So I've talked a lot, but what can we do now? I can't stress this enough, is really thinking about what their viable path is and how they're going to get there. Research colleges and programs. So start that list, identify any admissions requirements and deadlines. Make a list of their top choices. I always recommend having a reach. So maybe their dream school is Princeton. Let's try it. Let's get some matches. Where do you think you fit in with your GPA and your test scores and all that stuff? So if like maybe San Marcos is a match school for you. And then some safety schools, that's usually a community college. Like what happens if I don't get into my dream school? Where am I going to go? Researching majors and programs, draft your personal statements and essays, and really visit campuses. Make sure you feel comfortable there, go on virtual tours. If they want to retake the SAT or ACT, they can start preparing for that. And then really gathering your documents, your tax returns, keep it in a folder because you will need that information every year. And then just preparing for your senior year costs. I've listed a bunch of, most of the stuff I've linked throughout this presentation, I've put right here for you. So that's just an easy way for you to kind of click around and start looking at some of the information we talked about today. And that is it for me. I know I gave a lot of information to you, but that was not even the start of it. And I'm going to apologize for everything we're going to throw out at you in the fall, but I promise we're going to be here to support you and answer any questions that we have. And if we don't know the answer, we will help you get there. So I'm going to stop recording and I can open it up for questions, or if you don't have any questions, have a wonderful day. Thank you for attending. Go get a taco or something and celebrate Cinco de Mayo.